So today I'd like to do a review of True Cable's load bar style Cat6 RJ45 connectors. Now, this is the first time I've bought anything from True Cable, and this company seems to be pretty good. Their support, they're a younger company, and they're very enthusiastic about their products and their knowledge base. They have YouTube videos, all kinds of stuff. So I really like that support aspect of it, and that they're really into their products and making a good product. It seems rather than supporting some of these larger companies, you call them and they don't really care, they don't respond to emails, etc. So hopefully, as I buy more products for them, the products will be good. I'm liking what I see so far, so that I'll buy more products from them later. So I'd like to just go over these connectors. Now, for a few years, I've been using these trip light connectors, okay? And they're fine. There's one thing about these that I don't like, and that may cause a problem. I don't think it's a problem, but maybe something long term, I'm not sure. I'll get to that in a second. But the main difference between these, they're basically the exact same connector. But the big difference, and the reason I bought the True Cables, is because this is the Trip Lights load bar, and this is the True Cables load bar, okay? Now they're identical, their physical characteristics are identical. However, you can see that the True Cables is colored, it's green, and that's the exact reason why I bought these. And I think that the fact that that's colored will be very beneficial in terminating the RJ45 properly, and I'll show you why here in a second, okay? So the difference between these two is just the color of the load bar. Everything else seems pretty much exactly the same. The contact pins on both of them have three. Let's see if I can zoom in on that. Have 3 pin contacts, okay, which is what you want really. So that works for stranded and structured solid cabling. Okay, so yeah, the connectors are pretty much the same. It's the load bar that's the difference. Now, the problem I'm having with the trip lights, okay, is that because the load bar is clear, it's very hard to see where the load bar, or near impossible to see if the load bar is properly seated inside of the RJ45. With the True Cable load bar being green, you can see the position of the load bar, which is very important to make sure it's seated, because if it's not seated properly, you're going to have a problem. Okay, so I'm not going to get into actually terminating one of these. True Cable has made a very in-depth video about that. In fact, I can link that in the description. But let me see if I can zoom in here. Well, let's bring this over here first. So basically, in the video they state, let me zoom in here. In the video they state that you should leave an 1/8 inch gap, 1/8 inch to 3/16 gap between the load bar and the jacket. Because if you don't, you may run into an issue that I was having with the trip lights, in that I was using the jacket to sort of push the load bar all the way forward, or to make sure that it was fully seated, because you can't see what the position of the load bar is. And that could potentially put a little bit of pressure on the load bar as you terminate. Like I said, with these trip lights, I've been using these for years and I haven't had an issue. But I noticed that, early on, I was like, oh man, that jacket, pushed up against the load bar like that when you terminate it. And I mean, we're talking 64th of an inch, very minor pressure on that load bar, having that jacket all the way forward. I want to make sure these are exactly perfect, because you don't want, working in the field, you don't want to have problems later on, and, years later having to go re-terminate all these connectors because there's an issue. I don't think that can cause an issue, but I don't think it's optimal, okay, with the trip lights. So as you can see, I was able Now you can see the difference in the jacket. Okay, the jacket now is about 1/8 of an inch to 3/16 of an inch spaced away from the load bar, and I can visibly see the position of the load bar and be comfortable that the load bar is fully seated. That load bar is fully seated. Okay. So here I have a true cable load bar on there, and you can see that realistically the cables crossing over each other and the center spline of the spline separator, whatever you want to call it, of the Cat6 cable acts as a means of stopping the load bar from going back too far as you push it into the RJ45. Okay, so that's that's okay. And I also noticed that the let me just make sure the true cable connector looks slightly different. It's got like kind of a U shape on it, so you can differentiate it. Okay, that's a true cable one. So I noticed while inserting this, I can't do it because I'm holding my cell phone here, but as I was inserting this in there, it feels much smoother as it goes in, whereas the Trip Light load bar had a lot more tension on it. So I was having to use the jacket to sort of push that, to push on the back of the load bar as I was pushing it in, to feel confident that that load bar was fully seated, because it's very, the plastic is clear on the Trip Lights and you can't see that load bar. So that's technically not the right way to do it. So I really like the fact that I don't have to do that with the true cables. This load bar feels like it's going in very smoothly, much more smoothly into the RJ45, and I'm not having to use the jacket to make sure it's pushed all the way forward. So let me just zoom out here. So I'll give them a try. I think I can tell you right now that this cable, that this is way better straight off the bat. That I'm gonna have much better time with this and feel more confident that I've terminated these properly, that I won't have any issues, and I'm not putting any pressure on it. True Cable, even in the comments section, I talked about it, and they don't recommend having the jacket, all the way against the load bar. So they agree with that. So again, that instance of having the load bar and the Trip Lights, the jacket all the way against the load bar, won't necessarily cause it to fail, but it's not 100% optimal either. So I feel much better about these, and I'll be using these for a while in the field and giving them a try. But I can tell you right now, it's going to be much better. So all right, well, that's pretty much that, and thanks for watching.